This is Miss Watson. I sincerely apologize for not being here. I am currently serving jury duty. However, I want to get period two, my loves, my students, caught up on what everyone else has done. So the objectives for this ed puzzle is that you guys are going to review some key information from the unit this far, and you're going to be able to compare and contrast the energy available in proteins, carbohydrates, and lipids, which, as we know, are our biomolecules. There will be 6 slides of notes for us today. So have your notebook out. If you need to pause the video to take a second to do that, please do so. Really quickly, a review. We learned food by the numbers. The average human eats about 4 pounds of food each day, but the average human only poops 1 pound of food every single day. So my question to you guys is, where does the food go, right? Where does it go? And that's going to be kind of the big key takeaway of this unit. By the end of this unit, you'll be able to explain scientifically where that other 3 pounds of matter goes. So to start us off, I can't remember if you guys have listened to this song or not, but it's one of my faves, so I'm going to subject you to it. Please enjoy the Small Time Boys with What I'm Made Of.
So you say you wanna see what I'm made of? Well, there's nothing, baby, to be afraid of. I'm only human after all. So if you shrink down really small inside these molecules of mine, here are the elements you'll find. Oxygen by weight, I'm mostly this, you see. Carbon, it's second most common by weight in me. Hydrogen by number, it's most common, yes. However, all its atoms simply weigh much less. Nitrogen, it's fourth most common either way. Of phosphorus and sulfur, there's not much to say. Oh, but I need them both, just as I need them all, and other elements too, though portions may be small. Yes, in these molecules of mine, the most common elements you'll find are oxygen, carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, and phosphorus and sulfur. They're all here within. That's it, baby, that's what I'm made of. You see, there's nothing to be afraid of. Oxygen, carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, and phosphorus and sulfur, they're all here within.
All right, you couldn't see me, but I was definitely dancing and mouthing the words to that amazing song. So the takeaway from the song is that there are 6 elements that make up life, and the 6 most common elements found in living things are carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, and phosphorus and sulfur. And then you sing the rest of the song. So the song is to get you to memorize these 6 elements of living things. If you're not an auditory processor and music doesn't do it for you, you can just remember the acronym CHOMPS, like chomping on food, but with an N instead of an M. So CHOMPS, carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, phosphorus, and sulfur. This is a note slide, so please take a minute to copy this down into your notebook. Now, in terms of chemistry, you guys are going to be doing a lot of chemistry next year, but for this class, you definitely need to know that atoms like carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, phosphorus, and sulfur by themselves can be called atoms or they can be called elements. But when atoms or elements bond together, they form a molecule, right? So you have these 4 atoms. When they stick together or they bond together, and there's different types of bonds, they make a molecule. And we're going to be kind of more concerned in this class with molecules, but you do need to know those 6 atoms. Again, this is a note slide, so take a second to write down your notes. Now, here is our third note slide, and it's about biomolecules. You are only responsible for writing what is inside of that black box. But if you are one of my word nerds, and I know you're out there, so I'm talking to you, you might also want to write down that monomers are small molecules. And monomers are usually small molecules that will eventually make up a polymer. And polymers are large molecules made up of repeating monomers. They're just monomers over and over and over and over again. And the word nerd comes in the fact that mono means one, right? If something is if a word is monosyllabic, it has one syllable. If someone is monogamous, that has that mono in the front, it means they're with one partner, right? Versus the prefix poly means many. If you're looking at a polygon, that's a shape with many sides. If someone is polyamorous, it means they have many partners, right? So you can kind of start to attach these root words to common words that you know, and it may help you start to understand the English language a little bit better. But as far as what needs to be in your notes, when monomers or small molecules bond, they form polymers or large molecules. And biomolecules is what we're going to be most concerned with on today. Biomolecules are molecules produced by living organisms, and biomolecules are polymers. And there's 4 biomolecules that we are going to just quickly review since you already have the graphic organizer in your notebook. Take a second to write this down. You can pause the video and I'm going to keep going. So we already know the 4 biomolecules: carbohydrates, lipids, proteins, and nucleic acids. I'm going to do a quick review of them, point you in the direction of some tools that you can use, but in an effort to keep this video short, I'm not going to play the videos. If you guys would like the videos to be played, you can absolutely go into these notes. They'll be in the class lectures section of Schoology, and you can watch the videos. So to review real quick, the structure of food, you should have this in your notes, and the function of food, okay? Remember, the structure of food is made up of matter. Matter is anything that has mass and takes up space. The function of food, however, is to provide us with energy, right? We are heterotrophs or consumers, so we need to eat other organisms in order to get energy. And this little picture of the battery in the food should just help you remember that food is made of matter, but it contains energy. And something really important for you to remember this, write it down, take a picture, do whatever you got to do. Energy has no mass, right? This is our 4th slide of notes. Energy takes up no space. So if you remember back to the last time we took notes, the definition of matter is anything that has mass and takes up space. Well, if energy has no mass and energy takes up no space, you kind of can think of energy and matter as 2 complete opposites, right? One is defined by the presence of like being, the other one isn't really anything tangible. You can't fill up a bucket with sunlight, right? You can't make a sweater out of electricity. It doesn't have any mass, it doesn't take up any space. So these are things to keep in mind. I know a lot of you, when we looked at our unit question, you immediately thought, oh, that extra 3 pounds of food, it just gets turned into energy. But if energy has no mass, can we turn that 3 pounds, which has mass, into energy? It's a thinker. And that's what makes this unit kind of deeper than it seems on the surface. So here's a video you guys can watch about carbohydrates, but you don't have to. Here is what is in your graphic organizer. We're just going to quickly go through each of these. If you need to pause in here, you can absolutely do that. This is a video on lipids.
Next one.
And here is what should be in your graphic organizer about lipids. Remember, we have the biomolecule, the monomer, the atoms that are made of those 6 atoms that make up living things. We have the function, and then we have some examples. Here's proteins.
Next.
And proteins. An important thing, or maybe something since you're in honors class, to look at with proteins is that the monomer of proteins are amino acids, and the protein is the biomolecule. However, there is this intermediate step called a peptide, sometimes called a polypeptide or a peptide chain. We'll learn a little bit more of this in Unit 4, but just know that before we can make a protein from these repeating monomers or amino acids, there is this stage in between called a peptide. And again, we'll get more into that in the next unit or in Unit 4.
The last
And nucleic acids are DNA and RNA made up of those repeating nucleotides, and they are made of carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, and phosphorus. So if I was to ask you a question like, what is the only biomolecule that contain phosphorus? You could look at your chart and be like, oh, look through the atoms section, bam, nucleic acids contain phosphorus. So I'm just going to ask some quick checks for understanding. They will be in the Ed puzzle as well. Fingers crossed these that you guys can use your chart and answer these questions. So, which biomolecule contains phosphorus? What is the monomer of carbohydrates? Which biomolecule contains nitrogen? And what is the function of lipids? All right, we're almost done with our notes. So remember that food is energy. And the way that we measure the energy found in food is we measure it in calories. I'm sure everybody listening has heard of a calorie before, but do you know what a calorie is? Do you even calorie, bro? A calorie is defined as the amount of energy needed to raise 1 gram of water 1 degree Celsius. So however much energy it takes to take that one tiny little gram of water and increase it by 1 degree Celsius. However, the calories that we see on a nutrition label, if you notice, on the left side, I spelled calorie with a lowercase c, and on the right side, I spelled calorie with an uppercase C, and that is very much on purpose, which is why I underlined that uppercase C. The calories that we see on food labels are actually a kilocalorie, and kilo is that prefix that means 1,000. So the big C calories that we see on food labels are actually 1,000 calories of these little calories. We use little c calories in the lab. Next year, when you do your calorimetry lab in chemistry, you're going to use little c calories. But when we're talking about food and nutrition and food labels, it's exclusively dealt with in kilocalories or big C calories. So that's just something to put in the back of your brain. This is a note slide, so be sure to include this in your notebook. If you want to compare and contrast of big C calories to little c calories, this is helpful. You can write it in your notebook, but it's not required. Now, remember, in science, we read pictures. So here is the graph of calories versus biomolecules. You see on the bottom, we have 3 biomolecules: carbohydrates, proteins, and lipids. And along the y-axis, we have the number of calories in each of these biomolecules. I do want to point out that nucleic acids are rarely, if ever, broken down by your body for energy. Remember, nucleic acids are our DNA and RNA. If your body is attempting to break down your DNA or RNA for energy, it's not a good look for you, bro. You're probably in the final stages of starvation. So we don't use those as a way to gain energy, but we do break down carbohydrates, proteins, and lipids for energy. So what do you think is the biomolecule with the most calories per gram? And how many calories does it have? If you said lipids was the biomolecule with the most calories per gram, you would be correct. And if you identified that lipids have 9 calories per gram, you would also be correct. Which brings us to our final slide of notes. We are going to get specific about the energy found in biomolecules. So these are generalizations, but they're pretty standard generalizations. Most scientists use these generalizations. In general, proteins contain 4 big C calories of energy per gram. So for every gram of protein that you eat, you get 4 calories of energy. And again, these are big C calories. In general, carbohydrates contain also 4 big C calories of energy per gram of carbohydrate that you eat. And lipids generally contain 9 calories of energy per gram of lipid that you eat. And that's what that chart told us. This is just putting it into words. Take a second to write this slide down. I'm going to move on. So here is your task. You need to know how to calculate the calories, big C calories, found in foods. So if you look on a food label, they do all the calculations for you, but it's important to know how they got those calculations and why those calculations are important. So we're going to take some of the stuff that we just learned and combine it with just sensible math, and then you guys are going to be able to do this on a worksheet in class today. So in general, how many calories of energy do carbohydrates contain per gram? Hopefully all of you said 4. Now, you need to look at whatever food label you're dealing with. In this case, our food label is off to the right, and you need to figure out the total grams of carbohydrates, and you get that from the label. So right there, it shows you the total grams of carbohydrates is 37. So we can write that right into our equation. So now we have carbohydrates contain 4 calories of energy per gram, and the total carbohydrates in this food is 37 grams. To figure out how many calories this food would give us, we multiply the calories per grams times the gram. So it'd be 4 times 37 equals, drum roll, brrr. You guys don't have a calculator already? Maybe take a pause, go run to the wall, grab a calculator, come back and answer this question. 148 calories from carbs in this food. Now, carbohydrates aren't the only energy source in this food. If you look at the label, you can also see fats, which is a fancy word for lipids, and proteins. So let's move on. Calculating the calories from fats or lipids, this is the tricky one. Generally speaking, lipids or fats contain how many calories of energy per gram? 9. Oops, I messed up on this slide with the animation. That's okay, we'll move forward. So how many total fats are there on the label? 8 grams of fat. So if we take 9 calories per gram times 8 grams of fat, that's going to give us 72 calories from fats. And then finally, we have proteins. This food does have a small amount of protein, but protein nonetheless, it still contains calories. So in general, proteins contain 4 calories of energy per gram. The total proteins in this food are 3 grams. Therefore, 4 calories times 3 grams. Hopefully you don't need a calculator for this. And you get 12 calories from proteins. So how do we put all this together? We figure out the total calories from carbohydrates. We did that math. 37 times 4 equals 148. We get the total calories from fats. 8 grams of fat, 9 calories per gram equals 72 grams or calories from fats. And then we take proteins. 4 grams of proteins times 3 calories per gram equals 12 calories from proteins. And then we add up calories from carbs, plus calories from fats, plus calories for proteins, and that will give us the total calories in that food. And so take a second, add it up, and you get 232 calories in this food. So now you guys are going to get a chance on the worksheet called You Are What You Eat. You are going to figure out how many total calories are in a list of common foods. So I'm going to start the first 2 together. You may already know exactly how to do this, and at this point, you can just start to work on it. If you need a little bit of a walkthrough, let's do it together. So we start with the apple medium. Carbohydrates, there's 22 grams of carbohydrates in this apple. Carbohydrates give us 4 calories per gram of energy. So if we multiply 22 times 4, that's going to give us the calories from carbohydrates, which is 88. There's 0 grams of fat. In general, fat gives us 9 calories per gram. So you can take the calories from fat as 0. 0 times 9 is 0. Proteins have 0 calories. In general, proteins give us 4 calories per gram of energy. So again, 0 calories from protein. Now, the way you figure out the total calories, if you recall, you add up the calories from carbohydrates, plus the calories from fats, plus the calories from proteins. And in this case, you would get 88 total calories. This next one I'm gonna go through a little bit faster. Bacon, 0 carbohydrates. 0 times 4 is 0. The fats from bacon, bacon has a lot of fat, 6 grams. We get 9 calories of energy per gram. So we would go 9 times 6, which gives us 54 calories from fat for bacon. And then bacon has 5 grams of protein. So in general, proteins give us 4 calories per gram. So 5 times 4 is 20. We add that up, 0 plus 54 plus 20 gives us 74. So please locate the worksheet You Are What You Eat. It should have a period 2 label on it. And you can go ahead and complete that, use complete sentences. And because it is a shorter day, you guys can submit this on Monday. But if you're finished in class, you can submit it in class. Thanks and have a great day.